With me today is a brand new 2019 Honda CRV Touring Edition. And the CRV, no doubt, is the current king of the compact SUV segment. And that's because Honda sold nearly 400,000 CRVs in 2018 alone, and sales keep increasing year after year. But its competitors are not sitting idle, and that's why Toyota released a brand new RAV4, and also Mazda just updated their very popular CX-5. So today, I'm going to review this for you guys, show you the ins and outs of the CRV, also take her out on the road to let you know how she drives, and finally conclude with the good and bad and the ugly, so you can decide if this is the right SUV for you. Stay tuned.
First, a quick shout out to Honda of Lisle, which made this video possible. More information can be found about the dealership in the description below.
Let's start out by looking at the side view of the CRV. And there's a couple things that pop out right away. The first thing has to be this paint. And this is called a lunar silver metallic paint, and it is absolutely gorgeous, especially in the sun. It pops out. Other things that pop out, look at these 18-inch alloy wheels. They have a really unique design. Normally I wouldn't like that design, but somehow it works with the car, especially with this giant chrome trim that goes from the front door all the way to the back bumper, and it's at an angle, which is a little bit weird, but that does match the window surrounds, which is chrome, and it certainly matches this gorgeous looking roof rail, which is beefy and made out of aluminum. Now, besides those, you do see the privacy glass, right? The fender itself kind of bulges out, and you do see the belt line slightly higher. And when you combine all that together, I don't think it looks bad at all. I would say if I had to rate this on a 1 to 10 scale, I would rate it probably a 6 or a 7. So it's definitely not the best looking compact SUV I've seen, but it's certainly nowhere near the bottom either. Now, moving on to the front of the CRV, I want to show you something I picked up, which is this layering of chrome, right? And what do I mean by that? First, take a look at this gigantic chrome piece, right? That kind of goes in the middle. Then you have a smaller chrome piece that layers on top of it and goes to the side into the headlight. And then within the headlight itself, you see another chrome piece on top of it. So there's layer upon layer right there. And then looking at the headlights themselves, they are LED, and I actually really like this design. It actually has that modern, aggressive look. And then if you move on to the lower bumper, you do see that there is a crease right here on both sides. There's some jagged edges on the bottom to kind of give it that aggressive look. So just like the side, in my opinion, it doesn't look too bad. It's certainly not the best looking front end, but it's certainly not the worst either. All right, moving to the back side of the CRV, there's a couple things that pop out. The first thing has to be these taillights, right? This is traditional CRV design, but it's been modernized, and I really actually enjoy this. Now, besides the taillights, you do see a spoiler up here. You do see this giant chrome trim that goes around, right? And also, if you look at the bottom bumper, you do get dual chrome exhaust. And I like the fact that this is not just all matte black. You do see the bottom half of this is painted silver, right? So you do get that contrast and also a bit more sportiness to it. And finally, I like how the body panels here are kind of creased over here to make it look more flat rather than rounded. And overall, I think the back end is pretty good looking. All right, so moving to the trunk, this is actually a really good amount of space. This is actually bigger than a lot of the compact SUVs I've reviewed in the past. Now on the side, you do see that there's little holes or cubby holes that you could put a few things, although there's no net or anything to hold them down with. And underneath here, you do get a full spare, but there's not a lot of room to put things. However, there are a few little places that you could put things, but overall you can't put anything big. But this is an enormous amount of space. Now you do get handles on each side, right? That can fold down the second row. You do get this nice privacy cover which extends out when you need it, and when you don't, it rolls back. And then finally, I want to point out a few things. Looking at the seat tethers, you only get 2 rear ones, not 3 like I've seen in some of the other SUVs. And because this is the Touring Edition, you get upgraded stereo, which is why you get subwoofer over there. Now, in terms of the tailgate, it is powered, and you can see right here, you can actually set the height. So if you're on the lower side and you want this to be a little lower, you can manually set how high it goes. All right, I'm in the second row of the CRV, and when you're back here, you truly forget that you're in a compact SUV because there is enormous amount of space back here, and I'm not exaggerating. I'm 5'10", so take a look. There's at least 5 to 6 inches over here between my knees and the front seat, and this is my normal driving position. There is at least 6 to 8 inches of headroom over here and plenty of width. So you do get an enormous amount of space. This is the equivalent to a lot of the space that you see in mid-size SUVs, not compact SUVs, all right? In terms of the seats, it's in a really good position, okay? It's comfortable, the cushion is comfortable, it feels nice. The limitations is you can't slide it forward and backwards, and you can't lean backwards or forwards. It's set in its position. But a normal default position is actually a very comfortable one. Now, besides space, you get a whole lot of other things back here. You get a lot of cup holders, which is important for families. So you get one in the doors, right? And you also get a lot of cubby holes. And then you get an additional set in the armrest in the middle. Now, besides those, you do get a couple of climate vents over here, which is nice, and a couple USB charging ports right down there, right? And because this is a touring edition, everything is leather. It feels nice, it smells nice, it looks nice. You do get a couple of car seat latches, one on that side and one on this side. Is not available in the middle, just like in the back, there's no middle tether. When you're back here, there's a couple things you forget. First of all, you forget that you're in a compact SUV because of how spacious it is. And the second thing you forget is that this is not a luxury compact SUV because of how luxurious it is. I'm truly impressed with this second row. Now, starting with the steering wheel, this is nice. This is leather because it's the touring edition, right? And you do get a couple things. You can control your laser guided cruise control. This is for lane keep assist, and this is for the main menu. And then here, controls for your phone and volume and so forth. Now, looking at the gauge cluster, it's pretty much digital. You get a big center screen in the middle, right? And you can see a lot of information, including your miles per hour. But let me show you a few other things. And then on the side, temperature and fuel, and the little red thing is actually digital. It's not analog, so it's kind of mixed between digital and analog. Now, looking in the middle, you could go through a menu, and this is pretty standard. You can see fuel, navigation, four-wheel drive, your maintenance, music. Now, one thing that stuck out was this. It looks like a coffee mug, and if you actually look into it, it'll actually tell you the driver attention level. So they actually measure if you're actually paying attention while you're driving or if you're falling asleep. I thought that's pretty cool. Now, moving on to the center, and there's a couple things that are good and a couple things that aren't so good. One is the volume knob is back. That is good. Across all the Hondas, this was removed, and now they've been all added back, and that is always good. Now, this is touchscreen, which is nice. You know, a lot of times you rather just touch than try to fool with some knob, right? And this is touchscreen, so you could see you could go home or go to phone or any of that, right? What's not so good is this is kind of clunky. It's kind of slow, and sometimes you just gotta wait, right? It's not as fast as some of the other cars, and that could be annoying at times. And one thing I realized was while the car was turning on, I was trying to turn off the volume. I couldn't. I had to wait for the system to boot up before I could turn it off, so that was a little bit annoying. But outside of that, you do see climate, right? And there's actually a physical button for it. That is nice, so you don't have to fool around with the touchscreen. Right there, it brings up climate control, and you can set whatever you want. And then over here, of course, you do get the vents and heated mirrors, heated defroster. You do get heated seats up here, right? They're not cooled seats, just heated seats. And moving on to here, you get economy mode, which will greatly decrease power, so I don't recommend it unless you guys really want to maximize your fuel economy. And then over here, You do get a parking brake, electronic parking brake, and brake hold. Now, what I love about the CRV is they have a traditional shifter. You don't have to relearn this. Hold this down, and you could shift to whatever gear you want. Every other Honda out there is replacing this with buttons, which takes time to learn. I don't know why they don't just stick with this, so I'm glad Honda stuck with this. Now, moving on from here, you just look at the dash and the door. Keep in mind this is a touring edition, but this looks really nice, and I don't care if this is fake simulated wood. This actually is a really good looking trim, and you see matching with the design, right, with the stitching and the leather. Everything in here looks very high end. So just like the rear, right, and I mentioned about how in the rear you forget that you're not in a luxury compact SUV. It's kind of like here too. I mean, everything is designed well, it looks nice, and it feels nice. Now on this side, this is pretty standard. These controls, you know, the mirrors and the windows, this is pretty standard. Over here you do get some memory seats, and over here for the lift gate and also traction control, lane mitigation, and so forth. And those are all right there. Now, something that's missing is this car is equipped with a Honda Sense, which gives you all the latest safety features from Honda, but there is no Honda SOS or Honda Link. And you see that in a lot of the Hondas, but not in this CRV, interesting enough. Now, you also get a sunroof, and this is a traditional sunroof, and it is not a panoramic one, which goes all the way to the back. Now, down here, you just get a lot of space, a lot of cubby holes, so you could throw whatever you want down here. First, you get a power outlet, right? You do get this space right here for your phone or whatever. 2 cup holders. Now, this is pretty genius. So this armrest does not move backwards or forwards. However, you can open it up. Then you get this space, and this is for whatever you want. And this slides back, and you get more space. And then back down there, you get another outlet and 2 more USB ports. But this, it even says removable. So if you didn't want this, you could actually just lift this out and get more space over there, right? So this is pretty customizable. This is pretty nice, and I enjoy it. All right, let's go for a drive and see how this CRV is on the roads. Now, one thing when I was filming the interior that I noticed right away was how insulated and quiet the CRV was, because it's actually pretty windy outside, and as soon as I got in and closed the doors, absolutely nothing, no wind noise whatsoever. So Honda did a really good job insulating the CRV. And right now, while I'm driving through, although it's low speeds, you hear that? Yeah, nothing. This is extremely quiet. This is an extremely quiet SUV. You don't hear the roads, you don't hear the tires, you don't hear the wind. The only thing you hear is your own thoughts. This is very amazing. You know how I showed you the driver attention level gauge? It actually shows that I have full attention. So I don't know how it knows that, but it does. But right now, besides the ultra quietness in here, right, it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. I generally don't say things are not nice, but it's a nice, smooth ride, very quiet. The seating position is good. Right now, in this normal position, I didn't adjust it much. It feels good. Back support is good. Lumbar support is good. The seat cushion, plenty of width. I don't feel squeezed in there. So driving position, seating position, comfort is there. And if you look at the visibility around, right, plenty of visibility. Even though the belt line was a little bit higher from the outside, sitting within, you don't notice it. The windows are nice and big, and you could see all around you, including the back. So even in the second row, the headrest sometimes gets in the way. In this one, the middle one is lower, so it does not block your rear visibility, which is a big plus. There is a lot of body roll, right? So I purposely took a few harder turns. There is a lot of body roll. It's a comfortable ride, but it's not a sporty ride, so don't expect this to be on par with something like a CX-5, which is much more tuned for for carving corners. So there's a couple changes that happened for 2019, but very minor. And ever since this came out in 2017, when it was redesigned, very little has changed. There's a new white color that was introduced for 2019, and there was a subtraction. So if you want navigation, you have to go with the Touring Edition now. Before, there was an EX model that you could get navigation. That is no longer the case. So expect to pay a little bit more for navigation, but with Touring, you do get a whole bunch more. You get a whole lot of leather everywhere, which is really nice, and you get upgraded stereo and a few other little things. Now in terms of acceleration, I just floored it a little bit. It wasn't that impressive. It'll get you up to speed, but it's not quick by any means. On the higher models of the CRV, you do get the turbocharged 1.5 liter engine that pushes out 190 horsepower and about 179 pound-feet of torque. Now on the lower versions of the CRV, you do get a 2.4 liter natural aspirated, similar in specs, about 183 horsepower and 180 pound-feet of torque. So some may wonder, is it worth it? Well, the turbo engine and a non-turbo engine actually get very similar performance in terms of 0 to 60 quarter mile acceleration. It's very similar. The benefit you get with a turbo engine is fuel economy. You actually get 2 miles per gallon better, both highway and city, and combined with the turbo engine versus the natural engine. So that's what you get with the 1.5 turbo. It's not like you get more performance. Part of Honda Sense is road departure mitigation, right? Which on some cars I tested, it worked well. Some cars it didn't. It depends on if it could read the line. So I just turned that on. I'm going to see how it is. When it sees the lines and I'm purposely crossing it, it will shake the steering wheel, and on the screen it says lane departure. So it's nice. You can't rely on it 100% because it does require the car to actually see the line. So sometimes the lines are covered up, or if there's snow, it's hard to see. It's not going to work 100% of the time, but it's nice that it's there and you can use it in case you need it. Steering feel. Hondas traditionally have a pretty good steering feel, not the heaviest, but in this CRV, it's heavy enough where it's actually enjoyable. It's not too light. The braking feel is good. All the Hondas I've driven have similar feels. It's a pretty linear feel, not too mushy, not too tight. It doesn't catch on too quick. So in terms of the brakes, it feels pretty good. Now there's a couple things that's missing, and one thing is actually really good, and that thing is engine auto stop, right? Most modern cars now, if you stop at a traffic light or something, there's a feature where it basically turns the engine off. But then there's a slight lag when it turns back on, right? And especially if you're in stop and go traffic, that's horrible. You'll feel it turn off, on, and there's a lag every time it does so. So normally when I see that, I just turn it off. But in this car, in this CRV, it's not an option, so you don't have to worry about that, and that is a plus. So that's a plus by subtraction, I guess. And then also something that's missing that I wish Honda would implement in the future that I loved in the Mazda CX-5 is the heads-up display. Now the heads-up display on the CX-5 was a godsend. It was amazing. It told you everything, whether things were in your blind spot, if you were setting your cruise control, navigation, speed limit, everything appeared right in front, right? And that's not an option for this car. And you know what? I wish Honda would think about that in the future because that was an amazing feature. All right, so to conclude, let's talk about the good and bad and ugly about this CRV. And I now understand why this is so popular and why Honda could sell 400,000 of these or close to that in 2018. Everything here is designed well, and it's really hard to pick out the negatives. So starting from the outside, you can consider that to be kind of a neutral point, right? It's subjective. Some like it, some don't. In terms of my opinion, I like the outside. Of course, it's not the greatest looking SUV out there, but from the front, side, back, I think Honda did a really good job with this latest redesign, and I like it. Now, moving to interior, definitely impressive, right? Because this is a touring edition, all the leather in here, even the fake wood looks good. Leather feels nice, smells nice. The stitching on the seats, on the door panels look really nice. And like I said, when you're sitting in here, you almost forget you're in a compact SUV and not a luxury compact SUV. The trunk space, there's an enormous amount of trunk space in there. You'll be pleasantly surprised when you open it up and see that there's a lot of room to stick whatever you want in there. And then in the second row, it gets even more impressive. You really get the same amount of space back there as you get in mid-size SUVs. Plenty of legroom, headroom, shoulder room, hip room, plenty of it. So those of you guys that are parents, you want to stick car seats back there. You know, some car seats are really big and long. Absolutely no problem sticking it back there. And you get amenities such as USB ports, vents, and a lot of cup holders, okay? Moving up here, everything here is designed well. Space-wise, plenty big. I fit in here just fine. No problems with space. The seats are really comfortable, in a really good driving position. I don't have to fidget with the controls to try to get it comfortable. It's really comfortable. And visibility is also great, right? I love the fact that there's a traditional shifter here and it's missing options like engine auto stop, which is completely unnecessary, right? And I also like the fact that Honda didn't put in paddle shifters because there's absolutely no reason for that for this car. Now, moving to the bad. There's a few, and it's hard to come up with a bad for this car. The navigation screen, the touch screen, this interface, right, is a little clunky. It's a little bit slow, but I do like the fact that there's a volume knob, there's a climate control, and all that is physical, right? But in terms of navigating through the entertainment system navigation using touch, it's a little bit slow. And the other thing that I dislike is the engine, right? Even though you get a more powerful, well, on paper, more powerful 1.5 liter engine, turbo engine on the higher model of CRV, you figure that you get a little bit more of a performance boost. You get a fuel economy boost, all right? And that's not necessarily a bad thing. However, when I just floored it a couple times on the road, the car really doesn't move fast at all. It takes quite a while to get up to 60 miles per hour. To conclude, to talk about the price, this Touring comes in right around $35,000. Depending on how you configure it, it could go up or down slightly from there. Now, the lower end CRVs start from the 20s all the way to 30s, but in my opinion, $35,000 for this Touring edition, and keep in mind that's before the incentives and discounts and rebates and so forth, right? What you're getting for this Touring edition of the CRV is absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. This has totally changed my mind in terms of what a CRV is. So you guys probably see so many CRVs out on the road, right? And you're probably thinking, why do so many people buy CRVs? Is it that good or is it that affordable? The answer is yes and yes. All right, guys, that is it. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any future videos. Take care. Bye-bye.